Okay, so I want to kind of show you a brief overview of the specific heat capacity lab because it's really not that complicated once you know what you're doing. So I've got my lab printed out down here. I highly recommend printing out your labs if at all possible. Trying to do them off the computer makes it tricky. The first thing it's going to ask you to do is find the mass of 5 nickels. So I have my balance here. I'm going to turn it on. Make sure it's on grams. And I'm going to record this. If you check it out, down here, this is where I'm going to be recording all of my data. You'll be turning this in, so don't not turn write in your data there. So I've got 24.85 grams. Okay. The next thing it tells me to do is to place them in an insulated cup under a Keurig containing no pod. Okay, so you're saying to yourself, I don't have a Keurig. Do I need to go buy one? Absolutely not. There are lots and lots of ways to do this. So what I've got here is old school coffee pot, okay? I've run hot water through here. That works. Another thing you could do, if you've got a microwave, you could just heat up water in the microwave for, say, a minute. It doesn't have to be boiling because it doesn't really matter what exact temperature it is. You're just gonna want it hotter than room temperature and you're gonna wanna record it. So this is where my hot water is gonna come from. So I'm gonna use a really small insulated cup for this. The reason is I'm gonna have to fish these nickels out in just a little bit. And if it's in a big insulated cup like a Yeti or something, that's hard to go fish. So I'm going easy route. This is just an insulated styrofoam cup. If you've got a little coffee cup at home, that's fine. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna put foil over the top to trap that heat in, but I just want the nickels to get as hot as the water. That is my goal in this. Doesn't matter how much water I have, a cup's worth is fine. So I'm gonna drop these nickels in there. I'm gonna pour my water in. Ooh, look at the steam coming off. Now be careful because coffee pot water, even though it's not boiling, is hot. We're gonna wrap this up and we're gonna let these guys sit in there for at least 3 minutes. Now we have other stuff that we're doing. I feel like I'm in a cooking show. This is kind of fun. So we're gonna let those guys sit because we want them to get to the same temperature as the water. That is our goal with this cup right here. Okay, so I'm gonna check this off that I've done that. They're doing their thing. While the nickels are resting in the hot water, I'm gonna measure out 30 milliliters of room temperature water. And if you're really astute, you're gonna be saying, well, you didn't use a whole lot of sig figs there. That's okay because we just need it to be close to 30 milliliters. We're gonna find its mass for the formula that we need, not its volume. So we're gonna measure out what its mass is. So, zero a different empty insulated cup. This one, it doesn't matter. We're not going in after it. You just want to be able to get your thermometer in the water. So I've got a Donut Bank used cup. It's clean though, don't worry. I'm going to put that on my balance and I'm going to zero it. Then I've got my approximately 30 milliliters of water and I'm going to pour it in here. And I've got 29.38 grams, okay? And since it's on a balance, I'm looking at grams, not milliliters, okay? So I've done that. I'm gonna record its temperature with nothing in there. It's just room temperature. Actually, this has been sitting in my classroom for a while. You can use sink water, totally acceptable behavior. You have a thermometer that probably looks less fancy, but probably does a better job than this one. So if I put my temperature probe in there, remember you want it on Celsius. And the one, if you bought the one off Amazon, you can switch it to Celsius inside the battery pack. So my room temperature water is 21.9 degrees C. I'm gonna record that. And that actually goes in, we're gonna skip the temperature of the nickels and put the temperature of the sink water. Thank goodness for erasers, because I just made a mistake on my paper. And you might too, that's okay. We can always redo. All right, So I haven't timed it. I'm guessing we're close to 3 minutes. On yours, really carry it out because you'll get better results. But what I want to do before I start moving nickels around is find out what temperature the water is. I can't put this probe on a nickel and see what the nickel's temperature is. So I have to make the assumption that the water and the nickels are now the same temperature because they've been hanging out together for a while. Okay, so I'm going to put this in here, see what the temperature of the water is. That's going to be my original temperature of the nickels. So that's that column that I wrote in mistakenly. You may have too, but this is where we find that original temperature of the nickels. So I'm going to stick this in here, swirl it around. Ooh, that's warm in there. That's nice. That's some good bath water. I'm going to let it acclimate. So my temperature's still climbing. If you look at my little dial here, and I don't know if my cameraman can zoom in. By the way, shout out to Laura Ivy for videoing this for me today. She rocks socks. I'm going to wait till the temperature kind of balances out. It looks like we are. Looks like we're at 72.1 Celsius, so I'm going to record that. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully fish out my nickels, throw them in the cold water, put the lid on the cold water, put my thermometer in the cold water, and see what the temperature of the cold water gets up to. Because if it works the way it should, the temperature from the heat of the nickels is going to go into the cold water. So the temperature of the water should go up, okay? After we do this, I'm going to talk you through some calculations with this as well, so that you kind of know what we're doing here too. So here we go. I'm going to carefully and quickly, I have tweezers, but you can use a spoon, you can use a fork. You just want to get the nickels over with as minimal hot water transfer as you can. No, they're not going to be perfectly dry. That's okay, but don't just like pour the whole cup in there because that's going to screw stuff up a lot. So I'm going tweezers. I'm going to give myself grace because I probably can't pick up 5 nickels at once. I'm going to go as fast as I can, but I know that I'm human, especially on a Tuesday like today. So here I go, fishing. Did you ever play that game Operation? That's what this feels a whole lot like. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, only one more to go. 5. Close my lid. Swirl it around. Then I'm going to get my thermometer. And I don't want the heat to escape, but if you got to take the lid off to put your thermometer in, it is not the end of the world. We will all live through this. Okay? So I'm going to swirl this because I want the heat from the nickels to transfer to the room temperature water in hopes that we see a temperature change. Now, I don't expect a huge temperature change because if we think about this, remember water has a really high specific heat capacity. It takes a whole lot of energy to change that temperature just a little bit. And remember, we just got 5 nickels. So maybe if we use dollar bills, just kidding. All right, so let's see what we got here. Okay, I seem to be leveling out at about 25.5. Okay, so now I have all the data that I need for trial 1. We would repeat this again for trial 2. The next video, I will talk you through using my trial 1 data on how to do the calculations.